on today's session from Mercedes Urban Mobility Solutions on leveraging the power of data. Our next speaker, Patrick Blume, will enlighten you on the various case studies Mercedes Urban Mobility Solution has done with vehicle data to increase road safety and efficiency in urban areas, to improve road safety, to reach zero vision and parking analytics, to reduce congestion, and to keep the traffic flowing in urban areas. Patrick Blume from Mercedes-Benz Urban Mobility Solutions is product lead, data-driven mobility. The floor is yours, Patrick.
Thank you, Esther. Well, that was kind of a long text. Please don't scare too much. I won't give you 30 minutes full presentation. I really would like to have it also a bit interactive. So I discussed already with Esther that we can have in the end also a lot of time for questions. Discussions also highly welcome. But yes, today I really want to show you what we at Mercedes-Benz are doing with all the data we are collecting with the vehicle, because it's a lot. You will also see that later. But first, I wanted to look a bit back on the last 2 days of Intertraffic. We were very proud to announce the project we are doing with the Netherlands called Road Monitoring. Also happy to have Alex here, one of our partners, where we as Mercedes-Benz with our cars assess all the streets in the Netherlands, so up to 130,000 kilometers of street with our vehicle data. That's a lot of data, a lot of streets. We're going to do that along 3 pillars. First one is road safety. Second one is winter management. And the last one is about infrastructure and asset management. That's all what we can do with our vehicles. I don't want to stay on this more high-level presentation. That's why I have decided let's go deeper today into 2 of those use cases. And for those 2 use cases, I will use 2 numbers. 2 numbers, to be honest, which are for me personally quite hard to swallow. 2 numbers which we at Mercedes-Benz and also probably you want to reduce to 0 one day. Let's start with the first number, and it's a hard number to be honest. In the Netherlands, we have 50 road fatalities per month. That means like nearly every day, 2 people are dying on the roads in the Netherlands. I mean, just on Tuesday, there was nearby here a big accident where 2 people have been dying. And for me as a citizen, from a citizen perspective, this number is not acceptable. But also from a company like Mercedes-Benz, this number is not acceptable. And probably all of you are working on making the roads safer. That's our aim. So when we look at the numbers, and it's not only for the Netherlands, I don't want to blame only the Netherlands, it's the same in Germany, it's in mostly every country in Europe the same. Those numbers are stagnating. Even most countries, most cities are following the Vision Zero, trying to reduce road fatalities to 0. Those numbers not going down, and that's mostly because the cities are heavily relying on crash data. And crash data, of course, is already outdated as soon as a crash is happening, right? I mean, the cities often become just active as soon as something is happening. So we need to change the game. We need to be there before something is happening. At Mercedes-Benz, safety is really at our core. It sometimes gives me really goosebumps if I see what our engineers are doing. We invented the airbag, ESP, ABS. All those things have been coming from Mercedes. And I mean, even nowadays, you can take off your hands while driving. When driving in US class, it's pretty crazy. And since 130 years, we really try everything to increase safety in dangerous situations. That's our goal. Well, we said, let's not stop here. Let's take it one step further. We ask ourselves, what if there are no more danger zones? So our cars with all those fancy sensors, with all those fancy security systems, they're not needed anymore because there are no danger zones anymore. And that's also a bit the hashtag I have brought today. You know, guys, today you need for everything a hashtag. So We and our partner, Transport for London, have worked along this hashtag no danger zones, and that was our aim. That was our aim through the journey of leveraging our data for no danger zones. I saw it a lot those days at Intertraffic. Everybody was speaking, we need to partner. We need to do it together. And we fully and truly believe also in this at Mercedes-Benz, to bring in those multiple partners, those multiple perspectives. Because as Mercedes-Benz, we will never alone reach this goal of 0 fatalities. So we need to partner, and somehow, sometimes also competitors now become partners, yeah? And that's something great. What we did with London is, we said, okay, we need a city who's very advanced on data. Transport for London is amazing. I came in there, they had 150 data analysts sitting at the city. I was, okay, crazy. And they really work on data to increase road safety. So that was the one perspective. Then we had our vehicle engineering perspective. So I worked very closely with our crash researchers together. And then at the core of all this, there was a citizen perspective. Because in the end, we want to make the road safer for the citizen. So we really ask ourselves, okay, how is the citizen staying at the junction, looking to the right, looking to the left? In London, it's the other way around, in Germany. And how does he feel in this specific situation? And by taking together those three perspectives, we really could come up with something very innovative. Our solution is a heat map of danger zones based on vehicle data. So what we are doing is we indicate those near misses, which normally stay uncovered. So the Crash Commission is mostly working where something is happening. In our data, there were only near misses, and we uncover them and give them on a heat map to the Crash Commission so they see where they have those danger zones and where in the future crashes could be happening. How that working? I will use a short video. All of this is, of course, only possible if our customers give the consent. Our cars are continuously calculating the risk of a potential crash. You see it in this situation. Our car is driving, seeing that there is a cyclist coming from the left. The car is maybe braking, not the driver, but the car is autonomously braking. And all those information from the situation, was it a pedestrian, did he come from the left, from the right, are sent since 2018 to our vehicle backend. And then, not me, but the smart engineers have come up with an algorithm to say this is a risky hotspot because it looks, by a deep learning algorithm, very similar to a crash that actually has happened in London. So we are comparing it and say that is a high-risk hotspot. Then we give this to the city can work with it and really uncover areas they didn't know before about. And that's what we're doing with this Mercedes-Benz data dashboard. So the city gets our data, and they start visualizing, where do I have the hotspot? Is it very often at weekdays, the hotspot occurring, or at weekends? We saw it in London, there was a pub street, and you only had those incidents after 5 p.m. I think it was 4 p.m. The UK people go to the pub a bit earlier, so then the street was crowded, and of course, during that time, there were a lot of more near misses. How our cities nowadays work with our data? And it's nothing we talk about future fancy thing. No, the cities are now working with our product, with our data. So we have 3 areas where they apply our solution. First one, cities know about crashes. So what they're doing is they're requesting from us for the specific GPS position more data to understand what was happening the 5 or 10 seconds before a crash was happening. So they get a much more holistic picture to work with. Second, and I think that's the most important one, we uncover for cities those hotspots they don't know about. We call them black spot. That means we show them, hey, by quantified data, have a look at this specific junction. Nothing has happened there yet, but it can be dangerous because our cars have been reporting a lot of near misses. And the last and probably most complex use case is that we even can say how good was the mitigation measure. It means like London has implemented a crosswalk because they have seen it's dangerous there, but they don't know if the crosswalk was good, was doing a job correctly. So what we could do, we go back in our data timeline and see, yeah, in 2019 they introduced the crosswalk. Okay, after that, the incidents were clearly decreasing. We don't have any data points there. And then we can say, hey, your mitigation has worked perfectly. That's all about road safety. And for me, to be honest, also a very, very personal topic as a citizen, as I've been involved in a very heavy car crash. And therefore also this number 50 is for me very hard to swallow. The next number is not so much about safety, but about efficiency. 41 hours. I give you now 41 hours more per year to do whatever you like. What would you do? Probably for me it would be 41 hours more of Netflix, or 41 hours more of going running, because I also need that. Whatever. Why I'm asking you that is, on average, all of us are searching 41 hours per year to get a parking slot in a city. 41 hours. It's incredible. And you all know that. You go to a restaurant, I'm sorry, I'm a bit late, I take the car, then you search for a parking slot. And when we discuss this with cities, parking next to safety is really on top of the agenda for cities to work with. You also see it here. I think there's a whole hall only about parking solutions. So we asked ourselves at Mercedes again, what could we do with data to reduce the stress and increase efficiency in the cities, and of course also for the city, or in the end for the citizen? So what we offer is again a solution based on our car data. And again, it's together. It doesn't work if Mercedes is going to do it alone. Especially what you see in parking is you have a lot of players in the field of parking. You have the ministry, you have the police, you have parking slot providers, you have apps, you have the billing system. It's a very, very complex stakeholder system. So again, we said we need to bring all partners on board to create a solution which really is adding value in the end, which is adding value to the stakeholders, but also in the end, again, of course, for the citizen to reduce this 41 hours. Our solution. I hope you're also that much looking forward than me to present you this great solution. Unfortunately, it's Lena would be today with me on the stage, but she is sick. So I take over her part to present her solution she has been developing with a few cities in the last year. To do that, let's have a look where the data is coming from. Our cars, same as you, are looking always on the street, and if you detect a free parking slot, probably also our cars will do. Until the speed of 55 kilometers per hour, our ultrasonic sensors are detecting free parking slots while driving, and they're sending them to the back end. What they're also doing is saying where it's not permitted to park. So we also filter out those called false positive events where you're not allowed to park. And I can tell you, it's a hell of a lot of data. Because we not only get the ultrasonic sensor data, but we also see where our customers were really parking. So park in and park out events. And I just did yesterday a calculation how many data points we had in the last 24 hours in Amsterdam. It was 20 million data points just in Amsterdam delivered in the last 24 hours on parking slots. That's a lot. Yeah. And what are we doing with this data is then the next step. First of all, we use this data to create a digital twin of the parking situation in a city. We start with creating a parking register. You see it here, it's in Berlin, I guess, where we really can say how many parking slots does a city have. Because often cities don't know how many parking slots do I have, how big are they, how are they utilized? Often this is missing, and what they're doing then is they're hiring for very, very expensive money agencies. They go manually there with paper and pen, and then they mark it maybe in an iPad that they say there's a free park or there's a parking slot. And that's what we do. We digitize this per mouse click. So now we have calculated this data since 2017 for Amsterdam. Per mouse click, we could give a parking register for the whole city of Amsterdam. In the next step, what we're doing is we create a map that shows how those parking slots are utilized, because we can go back to 2017 and we can see how often was one parking lot used per daytime. So you could calculate a probability that I will find a free parking slot at 5 p.m. at the Königsplein. And that helps, of course, a city in the first place to understand where they have a lot of parking pressure and how to solve this parking pressure. And then they can go one step further and using our live data about free parking lots and gives this free live data to the citizens to understand where they could park directly in the situation, or give them a routing option to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't go in the inner city. All parking lots are blocked. Why don't you take the train and go from a hub to the inner city? Because also we at Mercedes-Benz, we believe the car is not always the best solution. It can be sometimes, but it shouldn't be always. So again, we have 3 areas of application. First of all, we give the city a full transparency about all the parking lots. They often don't have that. Second, we identify those pressure points based on the utilization of the parking lots. And third, with the live data, the cities then can give concrete routing options to the citizen to guide them to the free parking lots. That's what we have done together with a few cities now, and this is also nothing where we speak about future data, future solutions. This is also already live. And again, we came up with the hashtag keeping the flow, or keep the flow. What does this mean? That's a new innovation we have come up with. We give cities the chance to speak to our vehicles. That means we would, for example, identify a road safety hotspot, you see on the left, or a free parking slot, or whatever. This comes then in our magic machine. We do our analytics. We provide the insights to the city. And now the city can work with the data and think, okay, maybe I want to warn a driver at a specific school zone. For example, you would go then with your car and you get a notification on the head unit, please drive a bit slower, there's a school zone up front, and we have indicated in the past a lot of risks there, please drive a bit slower. So we really give the cities access to our cars, and that's for us a way to keep the flow, to really reduce road crashes, increase road safety, but also increase efficiency. I just have presented you a little tiny part of our quite broad product portfolio. I think it's up to 10, 12 products we have been developing in the past. All of those products are live. They're used by our city customers, but also of our partners and multipliers to really spread this whole data over Europe, and now we're also starting in the US. So looking very much forward to your question. I hope it was kind of entertaining for you, also some valuable insights, what we do at Mercedes-Benz and also why we're doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I have some? Thank you, Patrick. When we talk about vehicle data, is this like only sensoring data, or are you also using the data from vehicles itself, like braking systems, wipers, or is that allowed as well?
So in the newest EQS, we have 350 sensors. That's incredible. So we try to get from all our sensors, from the cameras, from the radar, LiDAR, up to also the damper level, where we detect potholes. We take all this data. What is important is that we not using one single vehicle, but we always use the intelligence of the crowd. So if we detect a pothole, we go several times with the cars over the pothole to get kind of a fingerprint of this pothole by the intelligence of the mass.
Okay. Any questions from the audience, perhaps? Gentleman over here.
All right, thank you. My name is Brian Hoft. I'm from the United States with the company Cubic, but I've worked in the traffic management center business before, and the data is very important. I'm wondering a couple of things. You mentioned you're starting to do some work potentially with the US, and then also, do you do anything with data to help with the traffic signal operation?
The traffic signal?
Yeah, the lights, the green, red lights.
That's one of our products which is currently in the pipeline. So our cars are, of course, also detecting the traffic lights. So that's going to be one of our next products. US is our next market, starting with the products we're having live, copy-pasting them to the US. I know there we have a different infrastructure, so we need to adjust our analytics. But yes, the products which are live going to be introduced soon in the US as well. Welcome.
Any more questions? Over here.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm Michiel de Molenaar from the Dutch province of Gelderland, a regional government. I have a question. You said it's opt-in for the customers of Mercedes-Benz to share the data.
Yes.
Do you have an idea what percentage of people opt in to share the data?
It's heavily also a bit depending on the region, for some Netherlands or Germany, but on average it's above 60. We also see countries with 80%. And I can also answer you why it's the case, because we proactively asking our customers, do you want to contribute to safer roads? And we are very, very transparent about what we're doing, and therefore we have a very high consent rate.
Thank you, very impressive.
Thank you. I think there in the back is...
A gentleman in the back.
Thank you. My name is Joel White. I'm from Bosch, running ITS and mobility in the US. I'm very interested in your near-miss data and in what type of criteria you look at other than, let's call it hard braking or auto braking or other manipulations in the vehicle. Are you actually looking at trajectories of objects in the environment, and how do you can only see so far. And I have one of your vehicles and I know how it works. So what's interesting to me is the data is limited. It's very valuable, but also very limited. And then related to that question on the criteria, it's you're only one of the manufacturers on the road, and then the percentage of your vehicles on the road is also limited. So overall, how valuable is that data in the large picture of the infrastructure and what's taking place?
Okay, great questions. Let me start with the first one about what data do we take for the near misses. And actually what we don't take is the behavior of the driver. We don't look at when he's braking or whatever. We only look at the data coming from the camera, radar, and in the future also LiDAR, ultrasonic. And those are really detecting what is going on. So they're scanning the torso and saying, there's a pedestrian coming from the left. He's walking, not staying. We can even differentiate if he's walking or staying. He's coming from the left. Our car is calculating a potential time to collision, and based on that is saying what the car should do. Should it only warn the driver, or should it even brake and escalate emergency braking? And that's what we take as the first place. And then we let our algorithm learn and understand how crashes are working. And then we're comparing our data, the situation of our data. Was there, for example, high pedestrian density because there's a metro nearby, a supermarket nearby? We look at this situation and compare it to a situation where a crash was happening, and based on that we can say, hey, that's a high-risk score. That's a bit for the first question. Second question is about you're only using Mercedes cars. It's true. Therefore, we cannot give the whole coverage of the city at any time. But what my argument is, and there I'm speaking out of the citizen perspective, should we wait as a city to save lives until we have data for the whole city? Or should we start with the things we're already having?
I agree. We need to create an alliance of vehicle manufacturers to all contribute.
I didn't understand the first part, sorry.
I don't know if this is on.
Yeah, it's on, yeah.
I said, I agree. Somehow there needs to be an alliance of all
Yeah.
manufacturers to contribute on a standard
Yeah.
to provide data.
You're right, and that's also my wish that with the help of the other OEMs, we can define a standard. The data you have been seeing about the radar and the near misses, that's very unique. We are a bit upfront, the other OEMs with this data, but we would be very happy to collaborate them more closely.
And of course, it's a combination of all things like floating car data, vehicle data, and also the cameras, the traffic cameras. So then we have the whole area covered.
Yeah.
Are there any road operators in the room, maybe?
I think there was one question.
One question? Who wants to raise a question? Vincent?
Thank you. So Vincent Blarvac, thank you for your presentation. I think it's a very nice and very concrete eye-opener how we can benefit from data from the vehicles. So you talk about safety and efficiency, but if we look at the environmental issue, what would be your position about sharing data about real-time emission of vehicles?
That's also something what we are doing. You saw before maybe on the product portfolio there's one which is called air quality. So our cars are also collecting a lot of information about the air quality, for example NOx or fine dust. And we're also providing that to cities to understand maybe that in a specific area, especially in Stuttgart where we come from, we have a high fine dust emissions. To, for example, then let the cities deroute and say, hey, better not go there, but maybe go derouting or take the public transport this time. Yeah, that's, as said, we truly believe in that the car is not the only way to go from A to B.
Any more questions? Gentleman over here.
Thank you. My name is Guido Governini. I'm coming from Italy and work for Telepass. It's a very fine presentation. I do appreciate your social imprints. But let me say, a lot of data, a lot of effort. Who pays for? Are you selling this kind of effort for the brand image of Mercedes-Benz or the value of the car? What's the business model?
It's good. Sorry, it's a good question. Jonas spoke yesterday also about business models behind it. And you're right, it's both for us. It's making revenue, but to be honest, like with this, I don't make as much revenue if I would sell 10 more S-classes. Yeah, so I need to cover my costs of my engineers. But also for us, and especially with our new CEO, Ola Kalenius, we have sustainability really on top of the agenda. And for us last year, there was nothing better reading in the newspaper, Mercedes-Benz and Transport for London making the streets safer using data. And that's the revenue I look at, to be honest. Yeah. But I have to say and admit also, somehow I need to keep my people running. And therefore, it's not only a free business, let's say this way.
But is it also to get the service for the Mercedes drivers into the vehicle?
Yeah, a lot of those things flow back into the cars. Yeah, so you have been seeing, for example, road safety. We're gonna warn our drivers also about those hotspots we indicated. One funny thing which is coming up, the waviness. So we calculate in the asset management the waviness of the street according to the International Roughness Index. And this goes also back into the cars. And based on that, our electric vehicles can save up to 3% of range because we give them a routing with perfect flattened streets. So this goes always back into the engineering.
And it's probably going to save a lot of money for the road operators to monitor their roads, the services.
Yeah, I mean, that's our aim. Alex is laughing, yeah. We think that our data can complement what the road operators are doing, getting more efficient, but also more safer roads in the end. Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Let's see what Romo brings us, right, Alex?
More specifications maybe for the spots, or can you comment on that maybe?
Yeah, I'm doing winter maintenance, but I can also do asset management, no problem. No, now we do the roughness every year. We drive around with a physical vehicle and look at the state of the asphalt. And then we could do, if we get the vehicle data, we get live the status of the road, and we could do maintenance before it actually gets dangerous outside. Yeah, we get more data for potholes. That's a direct threat, also in winter times, because we have open asphalt structure, and when water is in the pores of the asphalt, it will freeze and it will damage the asphalt sometimes, and then we get potholes instantly. And then, we can act when we get vehicle data, when our road inspectors who are visually looking at the road, normally they have to drive by and see the pothole, or there was already an accident, and now we get vehicle data, which we can act on immediately.
Okay. Any more questions from the audience?
Up
Over
left
there.
Hi, good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for your presentation. Is it possible to apply the near-miss tool to a motorway environment?
Punt to
To a motorway environment.
what do you mean by a moderate environment?
Your use case was to a city.
Sorry,
okay?
you mean for like a more rural area?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that as well. So we had a project in the past on highways. So we see also on highways, for example, we have a signal which is called events with other vehicles. So we could see near misses with other vehicles. But what we also measure is the lane departures. So we could see where vehicles were overtaking and then they were braking to get back. We see that a lot on rural roads, to be honest, or where vehicles were going into a curve and get over the lane marking because they will go out of the curve. And that gives then the cities or the road authorities ideas, okay, maybe we should go down there a bit with the speed limit because the curve is too steep.
And the Dutch cooperation is not in cities based only. No.
It's not exactly, we speak a lot about highways, big roads, yeah. So we apply to all roads, yeah.
Any more questions from the audience? Okay. Thank you, Patrick, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much.
To bring us up to speed. Warm applause.